Hello everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever your time zone may be. Welcome back to Zelda Speedruns. We are back with another Ocarina of Time Randomizer Season 6 tournament. We are now into round 3 of the winner's bracket. So today we're going to see Exodus versus Favio. I'm going to turn it over to our commentators today, Yoshi-kyan and Hagmania. Yes, Hagmania. Take it away, guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi there, Yoshi. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited. This is going to be a really good match. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, two stellar runners we've got for you today. We've got the number 3 seed Exodus and the number 51 Favio.
Yeah, so obviously the numbers on just the seeding lining up in Exodus's favor kind of tells a different story. Favio, I think, definitely very underseeded in this tournament, as evidenced by the fact that he's already beaten 2 higher seeds than him. He's beaten seeds 14 and 17 so far, I think it was. 14 and 19, sorry. Their tournament history is an interesting one as well. The stat screen is missing 1 because it wasn't played in the Ocarina of Time randomizer category. Exodus won their last matchup. That was during SGL, which Exodus went on to win. A huge tournament, cash prize, so Exodus really, I think, has stepped up this year. One of the old names who's been around since Season 2 was Exodus's first bracket, and this year has really kind of stepped it up, shown a new level, and taken that execution advantage that I think he has over the vast majority of the community, and has really run with it.
Yeah, Exodus draws from a large number of years of experience through speedrunning and bingo races for many years before OoTR ever existed. And of course, we know Favio's prowess on the keyboard, a technical wizard there on the WASDA and so forth. So just really exciting to see how they approach each other. The 2-1 in Favio's favor. It could be surprising, but like you said, Exodus routing into top form here lately.
It is worth noting the 2 that Favio won were both in the 3rd season of League. They were Exodus's only losses in that season. So Favio took 1st place and Exodus took 2nd in that division. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting one. A 3rd round winners match. Both of them already got through their first 2, and a Kakariko spawn. And we already see a split. We already see the song versus chickens.
That's right. Playing Minuet right out of spawn here is Favio, and chickens for Exodus. Just 4 chickens to collect here. Starting in Kakariko, I think. What do you think about playing a song immediately here in Kakariko spawn?
I don't dislike it. I think the big merit there would be if you got Zelda's Lullaby. If you can pick up Zelda's Lullaby, you save quit and go back to Kakariko, and at that point you get the extra song while you're there. And sure enough, that is what happens. So
indeed, Zelda's Lullaby at Saria's song check. Yes.
Already a really strong start for Favio here. It's probably not going to be a massive difference, because obviously you're going to come through as adult pretty early on as well. But it's a big difference in Favio. It's a small difference in Favio's favor at the moment, at the very least.
We have an SFM to Bongo Bongo path, so it won't be for Zelda's Lullaby. That cannot be hinted on the path directly, so we're probably looking at Nocturne at the Minuet check.
Ooh. Some big chests in Midos.
The double-double here at Midos. That's a hook shot. And a strength 1. Woo! Nice pickup there for Favio.
They're already well on the way towards everything for Forest Temple. No surprise, you almost always get those very early.
Yeah, start with Minuet. Midos has hookshot and strength. What are the odds that Forest is a stow?
Ah, jeez. Forest is always one of those really difficult ones, I think, to gauge the strength of, just on the grounds that
Kakiri Forest with the goods!
I was really ready to see a bow there. I was so ready to see a bow. Um, yeah, forest is a really difficult one to gauge because if you go and check your pedestal at this point and it's a stone, you've got all the items for it and you can full clear it, but you just need those items anyway. Like, you always need those items regardless. And so figuring out when to commit to that and whether you should dip in and do a couple of checks or whether you should clear the whole thing, and that can be a really interesting decision for runners to make, I think.
Oh, another good pickup here that Favio should be getting as well here. Exodus finding early explosives on Talent's chickens.
Yeah, how about until we see the menu and see how many we get on that one. Again, one of the big things I think that splits a lot of the top to the mid runners, like everyone in this tournament, we're talking kind of the higher end of the players in the community. But I think one of the things that really splits the kind of low to mid to top end of bracket is how effectively they can use a low explosive count. If that's a 5-pack of bomb chews, I'm very excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I would expect Exodus to stretch those 5 chews to the absolute limit, but we will see once we get a pause screen. Alright, so nothing else doing. That was Sun Song at the opponent's check. And in the silo, just a bloopy on the peak.
And now Exodus playing the song out. This is just a way to save on those save quits. I didn't mention the version difference. Favio is on emulator, Exodus is on VC. So Exodus will be avoiding save quits a little more than Favio will, just because they're that much slower.
So now, is Favio going to save quit here out of Lost Woods, and then possibly save quit again out of the Lon Ranch silo? I wonder what the routing choice is going to be here.
Probably, yeah. Okay. And actually, save scum those rupees there for the scrubs, so that can be really good just on the grounds of getting that early Hylian shield when you go to adult Kakariko.
That is a 10-pack of chews. All right, so okay, yeah. So the Sacred Forest Meadow hint was in SFM. All right, so that is a 10-pack of chews. So we will be seeing a little bit of scumming here, I bet.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it depends, honestly. Like, of course, it depends how early you find more, but at the very least, I'd expect to see an early Dodongo's Cavern, and then if you're still struggling from there, that's where things start to get interesting, I think.
Yeah, especially picking up that strength here in Child 1. I think Dodongo's Cavern looks like a very strong play.
I was actually talking to someone the other day about, like, the effective ways to save scum bomb chews, and I think Dodongo's Cavern gives you a really interesting one where you can go into the entrance, save, immediately leave as adult, go around the whole of, like, Death Mountain, do the Goron City Maze, link to Goron, go around the crater, and then if you find nothing, just reset back into Dodongo's Cavern and keep all of those bomb chews that you used. I don't expect them to be that aggressive with it with 10, but depends how risky they're feeling on those.
Exodus not quite paying enough attention to their rupee count. Had to grab a little extra change. No big deal, just a couple seconds of time lost there. But everything might count here in a very closely matched race. So we're being a little hypercritical because it's the only thing we have to focus on right now. But there it is, five rupees from the Ocarina of Time game. And a scale from Man on Roof.
Oh, early scale is a really interesting one for routing. Favio at this point now will have the choice of stay child, go towards domain to river, which there is a river path to bongo hint right on cue. So that's like a really strong play to be able to make early, especially when you've got Minuet to get to river faster, can then follow that up to domain. Adult doesn't really offer that much at the moment. Strength and Hookshot are both really valuable items, but they don't do much on their own. They both kind of need a few other things to go with them.
Sure. And so it's a double bongo path, a double path to bongo. So we will likely either be featuring Dodongo's Cavern or so we will be featuring at least one of Dodongo's Cavern or Forest Temple as a medallion, but they will not be hinted with the path.
Yeah. Dodongo's Cavern, of course, typically the more likely one, although having 2 of the 3 items for Forest already, it's very easy for the hookshot to be hookshot locked, but obviously can happen.
All right, so another benefit of grabbing that early ZL, you can get both checks here in the grave. I think you did mention that. So nice little piece of routing here by Favio. I really have enjoyed seeing the different micro decisions that go into this first cycle of routing. It actually, sometimes it creates an advantage that the winner can actually carry through to the end. You know, obviously sometimes it runs it off into a casino or what have you. Serenade here or there in the composer's grave. So that's interesting here with the scale.
Yeah, that's another way to really easily... And at this point, I think there's absolutely no reason to not go to domain at this stage. And yeah, to touch on the like early micro decisions, I really think the free song did so much for routing wonders. I will say I'm a big critic of random spawns. I don't think it does anything really. But wow, the out of logic strength, that could be big.
That's such an early strength too. Wowzer! Less than 9 minutes in. That's a serenade to water. Favio cruising on into Lake Hylia.
Oh, and Exodus save quit started going towards a song and has turned around to leave.
Ooh.
So won't get that Scaler's Child, won't get Serenade, and won't get the strength. Exodus is about to go adult and miss out on this early river play and also that strength upgrade. That is huge.
River is on the path to Bongo Bongo. That is a ball bag!
Oh my god! Normally I'm expecting, you know, okay, we got the first 10-20 minutes, there'll be a couple of small differences here and there. This first 10 minutes could decide the whole race. This is
craziness. Favio pulling out the craziest start to a child that I've seen in the tournament, I think, thus far. I mean, there have been some loaded first cycles, but this child start is crazy packed.
And I think the biggest thing here is, like, one of the merits in routing decisions, one of the big things that you want to consider when you're looking at, okay, I've got 2 options, what order do I do them in? Assuming you're doing both. So, like, in this scenario, you're always going to go to Child Kakariko, and you're always going to go and play Minuet and get the song.
Yes.
Which one changes the other? Nothing you do in Kakariko will make playing... Oh, well, okay, I suppose if you get a Kokiri sword from Chickens, Minuet becomes better. But there's a lot that you can get from playing Minuet that makes Kakariko better, most notably Zelda's Lullaby. And this is one of those seeds where that decision, just that sequencing, becomes such a huge decision point, and yeah, playing to your expectations, you know, you're more likely to get a valuable song than a valuable item from one check. That could make all the difference in a seed like this.
We are just 11 minutes into this seed, and we already would say that Favio has the early advantage, but as we all know, this is OoTR, and many things can happen still, but Favio is going to press this lead, I think. They have to be feeling a little bit fortunate with the wealth of wealth of items they've got. That is 30 skulls dead, I believe.
And it's very easy as well. The 1v1 experience is so different to most races. In a qualifier, you're just playing... Okay, play a good, consistent game. I just need to finish with the best time I can get, regardless of what everyone else is doing. In a 1v1, in a situation like this, Favio knows that, hey, Exodus might not have played Minuet first. If Exodus is trying to avoid those save quits, then maybe he's gone into Kakariko and then played Minuet and gone from there. And this is the kind of advantage that you know you could potentially push.
Exactly. Yes. 1v1 racing is a zero-sum game. After all, every choice you make is counteracted by the choices your opponents make, and there's just one winner. There's time gained and time lost with every decision that you make here. It makes 1v1 racing just full of mystery, and it's really a skill to know your positioning in regards to your opponent.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's one that, from the evidence in front of me at least, I think Favio is much better at 1v1s than the bigger races. We said about Favio being underseeded earlier, and I think that's a pretty universal opinion. Like, Favio is an incredibly strong player, and might just struggle a bit more in those big races, might push some more, like, I guess, risky routing, play to those expectations a little more than just playing the safe, consistent path. In a 1v1, that's phenomenal. That works out most of the time, and, Fabio's already taken down 2 very strong players and currently has a good advantage, only 15 minutes in, has a good advantage against someone who I've heard touted as one of the favourites to take the tournament.
Absolutely. Not to be forgotten, Favio did come in to Season 5 as the number 9 seed, I believe. So they've got what it takes. Also taking down the Triforce Blitz, the inaugural tournament there, I believe, as well. So no stranger to the big stage. All right, so we are going to go get our pedestal check. And Temple of Time hints first. There's a duplicate of River to Bongo. OOT is Epona's. 50 Skulls is dead. And Zora's Fountain on the path to Morpha.
Ooh.
Alright, so 10 and 20 skulls, the only checks we'll have to make at the Sculptural House. So you might... Oh, please.
I think the big interesting one there is probably the OOT opponents, just because there's a very reasonable chance that locks away your entire Garuda area or requires the long shot to get there, and so there's a lot of like logic leading towards that.
Yeah, we're gonna start unraveling this logic knot of crossing that broken bridge. Oh, it's a bottle on 30. I missed that it was a bottle. My apologies. So probably not gonna need that bottle, but
yeah, no, I think it's almost always a safe assumption that a bottle is not going to be relevant. There's a chance, but the main thing they unlock is, well, skulls. So having it as your only skull check, not a big deal.
Alright, to basically no one's surprise, Nocturne is at the Minuet check, so very straightforward path there, SFM to Bongo Bongo. That one seems to be fulfilled.
It does kind of feel like there's 2 ways the hints can go in this season. You either get really, really useful early game hints that give you a ton of direction and just chain one thing into the next, and that's it. Or you get Nocturne is on the path to Bongo, and then you're just, okay, all my hints are done. I'm 3-4 items missing still. What now?
Yeah, the speed of seed completion really is a combination of not just the items that you receive, but also those hints, because those really lock in your routing path and your choices there. So, whenever you get hints of dungeons being on path to other dungeons, that's when speed of completion really picks up.
Seeing a massive divergence here, because Favio got that early bomb bag, we're seeing the Goron City play. It's worth noting this is the potential downside to Favio's routing. A play like this is something that is kind of pushing that early advantage, pushing those early items. Exodus missing out on those might never come here. Child Goron City is very out the way, and Exodus might just dodge it entirely.
Yes, very possible. That is the give and take. Oh, there is the duplicate.
Perfect.
That's It's like the only well, I guess that's not true. It's one of the only places that hint could have been locked, basically. It's kind of funny. Right, so yes, so the big difference here as Exodus is going into the Composer's Grave is that they don't have a fire source or magic, so they will not be able to get that strength 2. Now, without the other pieces of the puzzle here, as Ice Cavern rewards a Prelude of Light on its song check for Serenade, may not be able to take a big advantage of that strength 2, but Goron City Maze, perhaps. That is something that you could turn around and go do as a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not to mention just the chance that, like, it's unlikely, but if they get Requiem and then their fire source is just in Spirit or in that Goron maze or, Gerudo Training Grounds behind the Strength 2 block, there are a lot of ways that Exodus just never gets this until committing to go back for flame storage, which isn't really a play that a lot of people make.
Having early Nocturne, though, I do think that it's a check that they will make sooner than not, especially with Sun Song. That put Stampede Digging on the table as well.
For sure, yeah. Obviously, if you get Magic and Dins or Magic and Fire Arrows, it's just absolutely free. So the only issue there would be if the strength locked those as well. And even without those, there's like a chance of it because of that kind of child density, like you mentioned. Especially, I think the thing that would do that is if they get Storms. Storms would be the big incentive to then go back and do all of that into bottom of the well.
Alright, so Zora's River is on the path to Bongo Bongo.
Right, nothing yet.
Yeah, we'll see if we need storms, perhaps. Alright, Open Grotto is a small chest.
Storms it is, then. We still have a lot of those song checks available. I assume, in 10 minutes or so, we'll see Exodus go up to check the crater one. But beyond that, there's not a huge amount available.
Skull Mask is just a piece of heart. That may have been a duplicate there as well. Alright, so we will be seeing Song of Storms before we are able to beat the Shadow Temple. Ah, we've seen a duplicate of the Skull Kit in. Okay, thank you. More bomb chews. Alright, and that...
Oh, and yeah, that's it then. Exodus does not have to worry about that bomb bag at all.
May never have to pick up that bomb bag. And really the only place that burns you is, Bomb Chew Bowling, so. Oh, the Kakiri sword. Okay. Interesting.
So there's an incentive to go child again, and that was Graveyard to Evolve?
That's Graveyard of Avadia.
Which we just saw had the Kakiri sword, I guess, but
Alright, so let's take a moment here. Our stones, I may have failed to mention, our stones are all the child dungeons. It's quite it's quite funny.
Oh yeah. Which does also mean, yeah, we're not getting a forest hint. So couple of hook shots available, couple of bows, couple of strengths. I mean, we've already seen a couple of strengths, but one isn't available yet.
Very good information, though, in regards to that hook shot, though, because we will have to be clearing out water, so you'll know that it's not locked behind any hook shot check.
Yeah, that is actually really valuable information for sure. It wouldn't surprise me if it's the item in Fountain, but then that changes how you look for the letter. It's essentially still a chain of, okay, well, the letter then couldn't be hookshot locked, assuming the hookshot is in Fountain. Also, talking about the incentives for Exodus to go back to Child being Song of Storms, Sword and Song of Storms, Exodus is going to try and wrap up this adult segment as quickly as possible, I imagine. Go through Dodongo's Cavern, maybe, and then if you have a bow, go to Forest, and otherwise, yeah, just straight back again.
I think we're too lenient to call some things bailouts at times here in the comms booth, but I do believe, as mentioned, that Song of Storms location was pretty fortunate for Exodus there. Alright, so we're going to get a check at Boulder of Destiny. I don't believe we've seen this.
The thing with the Storms location there is, like, you're always going to get that check. Both
Yes.
of them are always going to go there. They're always going to get it. I don't know how much it'll push Exodus to do. I think the issue here wasn't whether Exodus goes Child, because Song of Storms always had to show up soon
That's fair.
enough.
That's fair, yes.
And I think the question is more, will Exodus do the Composer Grave Torches there? Because that is a slow check for one out of logic check when you don't have a fire source.
Indeed. Right, we are going to see Stone Dodongo Cavern. I think DC is a play that has all the value in the world the earlier you go in.
Yeah, 90% of seeds you're going to be doing this. It takes a very special kind of seed to not want to do Dodongo's Cavern.
Alright, and not being able... So, unable to get into Lon Lon Ranch. It's going to be a save warp for Favio to go back to CAC and perhaps do Nighttime Graveyard.
Yeah, got that time of day for Dampe. Can also grab the skulls around here. Just a lot of very early checks that are very easy to miss. This is the kind of thing that, again, could spell a big lead in a 1v1. It's pretty reasonable for your opponent to not check Dampe until the 2+ hour mark.
Well, hello there, King Dodongo. You're hiding the iron boots in your cavern.
That's a huge find. Yeah, no, I had to just stop talking a second to process that one. That is absolutely phenomenal, because that means Zora's Fountain is the long shot or something that leads to it, 100%. So, as we were saying earlier, you know, as you pointed out, with the lack of a forest path, that means Ruto's letter absolutely is not hookshot locked.
Some key information about the logic playing out here for our runners. So we see some pot strats over on the right-hand side for Favio. Keep in mind, this man is executing on a keyboard. Not an easy task. I've tried it, and I felt like a buffoon.
I don't know how people do it. It's always impressive to me. There's like a handful of people who are just incredible keyboard gamers, and, you know, yeah, Favio is... I think there are 3 typically who are, like, touted as the best 3, and yeah, Favio is definitely amongst those 3.
And putting in the work too. In the post-race interview for his round 1 matchup, he told us that he developed that setup for Pixel Shot, which is, you know, just super smart about the game and its mechanics.
I guess that's probably... Oh, wow.
Wowzer! Okay, so that is a fire source. But no magic. Okay.
So, Graveyard was part of Volvagia as well, so now we have Din's and the Kokiri sword?
Alright, our paths are branching out here. Could be a little bit before we can sort of piece the whole puzzle together. Alright, yeah, so the options for Graveyard to Volvagia are Din's Fire, Kokiri Sword, and Strength. I think we're done. Okay, yeah, and that is Zora Tunic.
Yeah, that is... And obviously there's a world where it's multiple of those things. Only one of them will be hinted. We'll never know which one the game picks to hint, but it's possible it's Dins to get the strength to get another item.
Crawling around on top of the caves, on top of the head here. That's a lot tougher than it looks. It's a slick surface. Not actually slick. It's just tough to keep up on, I'd say. All right, so we are going to see the back here of Dodongo's cavern. Going to go kill the dinosaur as we see Favio checking out some explosive lock check.
Oh, we'll get to see. Actually, I guess Exodus has strength. I was going to say we might get to see the bomb chew strats for King Dodongo, but yeah, not with the strength. You don't want to waste those, even if you have 20 of them. Just not worth it.
We'll have to burn one there to get into the boss fight, but you're gonna have 22 here, fighting King Dodongo. So just gonna use the strength for the bomb flowers.
Favio does the like over-shoulder targeting to do target in the woods. Oh my god, that's impressive, honestly.
I mean, this is we're less than 30 minutes in, and I feel like I've already got a couple of hours worth of entertainment here. This has been a great start to this race. I'm super tickled.
Yeah, I'm always very wary of stuff like this, where I think typically you get a very slow start that then escalates, and this one has just kind of thrown everything. So I'm like, is it going to slow down? But just the massively divergent paths here, I think we're going to have so much potential for people to dodge things, so much potential for the sequencing of items to matter, and just, yeah, there's a lot that can definitely still happen here, that even when they're treading each other's paths, I think it'll still... This is going to be an interesting one from start to finish, I think, because... Even going over each other's paths, it's, you know, okay, well, if Exodus skips Goron City, then that's a time save. If Exodus goes through Graveyard and gets Dins but skips the Strength, then that's something. Then there's so many kind of engaging points to focus in on, even with the backtracking here.
It's gonna be a backseat balancing act. You heard it here first from Yoshi. As you know, it took us 25 minutes to talk about the medallion layout. It's gonna be 30 plus for Favio. He has not checked the pedestal yet, going in blind to Deku with that Kakiri's sword. I mean, you've got Kakiri's sword. It's early in the match. It's not quite the same as Dodongo's cavern, but there's still a lot of checks here that you can do in a hurry.
Yeah, I think. So there used to be numbers on essentially like checks per minute. And Deku Tree was the second best dungeon in that regard before. I think now Dodongo's Cavern has moved above it because of the chest size matches contents. Being able to peek those bombables makes a big difference. But yeah, Deku Tree was second to only bottom of the world before, and I'd imagine now Dodongo's Cavern as well, but it's still one of your best dungeons.
Alright, so we got an eye drops check. Oh, so that's all 3 bomb bags, I believe? We just saw 2 of them, and yeah, the one on the lake.
Yeah, that's... wow. Spectacular timing, and Exodus gonna be very happy to get that one. Not gonna care about Bomb Chew Bowling anymore, that's no longer a concern. And... yeah, doesn't know that the other 2 are both just happily in logic, but loses nothing for it.
Alright, so we do have a hint for Big Oron. Alright, so not going to be needing those eye drops today. That was in the hammer chest. Alright, folks, if you've not witnessed a Deku Tree clear out before, well, where have you been? Welcome in now. But you can already see we're in the basement here. Going to set up to skip out here with a ground jump using those bombs. I'm going to collect a couple skulls and go kill Queen Goma.
It's remarkable seeing just how far, like, even Deku Tree strats have come in the last year or two. It's one of the shortest dungeons in the game, and even still, there's been, 2 or 3 new strats discovered within the last year and a half. The constant improvements all over the place at the moment, and I mean, we mentioned Favio developing his own keyboard strats to make a lot of the things that he's doing possible on keyboard. Exodus obviously has, I think, is very well known in the OOT community as a whole as somebody who develops a lot of tricks and strats, and two very, innovative runners here for sure.
You love to see it, and there we have the first signs of a potential punish now for missing out on that strength 2. It is Requiem in the crater, so we will see whenever Exodus does collect that strength 2.
Yeah, I'd imagine Exodus is going to go over to pick up the song fairly soon regardless. At this point, we know it has to be one of Bolero or Song of Time, and the other one is in Kakariko, which is past a Twin Rover. We got...
Cactarova would have been the scale for strength? Question mark?
Storms would make sense.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm calling it now then. With all of this, the way it's pieced together, I fully expect to see magic in Bottom of the Well. Magic gets you your strength 2. And the other strengths can just be locked away somewhere in the back. It would mean that the strengths are not locked, and it would be... It could also be on Frog's one because of that path, but...
Yeah, Randobot took some explosive to the seed and busted it wide open when they created it, so we're... got lots of options, and we have Favio finally heading to Lon for after 35-minute mark, and Exodus gonna go out to the Colossus and find the song there. Song of Time. Alright, so we know then that Prelude's in Ice, Epona's on OOT, and that would leave Bolero on Burning Cack. Okay, yeah, so
yeah,
all of our song knowledge there out in the open.
I'm ready to see that hint now. Yep, right on cue.
Yeah, oh god. Oh, couldn't have called it better if I planned it. Oh, all right. I picked up those bomb chews from Talon. So Favio, so that's important to note here. So if you're Favio, it's really important for you to know that Exodus likely, even if they didn't get that early bomb bag in the lake, they did probably 100% get those bomb chews on Talon.
Yeah, no, for sure. Favio is definitely going to have to play to that strength advantage, but this long child segment has not paid out. Deku Tree didn't have anything of interest, and went out to do Target in the Woods, which is another check that Exodus, depending on timing, Exodus might just never go near. I imagine he will. I imagine he'll head towards River at some point. Best way to do that is either Serenade or Minuet. At some point you go via Minuet just to pick up those checks, but there's a potential for Exodus to skip checks here that Favio has done, and I think it's very easy. People talk about, oh, you can cut time here and you can cut time here. But you also, in a 1v1 in particular, you have to consider, where am I losing time?
Right.
What have I done that was skippable? And then also, what have I found that could give me an advantage? And I think people are very good at focusing on, oh, they could skip this, they could skip this. Favio right now needs to focus on, okay, what's my advantage here? And that advantage is the strength 2.
I agree with you. Especially seeing those bomb chews, you do know that, well, if he didn't run it exactly like I did, he Exodus did not go into the Deku probably, so something to keep in mind there for Favio, and we'll see what Exodus has cooking up on his side here in the Forest Temple. They've heard the call, and it sounds like Minuetta Forest, and they have responded.
I will clarify as well, by the way, for everything I say about, you know, oh, you have to focus on this and whatever, that is a lot easier said than done.
So is that. Exodus dispatching the Stalfos like he was a paper toy. Alright, prize 1 for Bombchu Bowling. No good. What's next? How about these seeds? No, thank you.
Not a big advantage then. That's obviously Exodus could grab that now. It would still be an advantage for Favio if that was a bow. Or something to use as adult. The fact that Favio got the bombs as child would mean he could then utilize those in the adult segment, whereas Exodus would have to do the kind of time travel Master Sword back and forth to utilize it.
You know, if you're Exodus, you're really hoping that, I mean, always hoping that you're not going to have too many child sections, especially with that knowledge that Rito's letter is locking what we presume is the long shot. So, really hoping to just get as much done in that next child section and be done with it. So, you're really just trying to limit those age changes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think at this point, you know, it's that kind of this is one of the more difficult decision making sides of things, I think, where you're now at that point of, okay, I need to find the letter, and that could be the path in Zora's River potentially. It could be locked in Bottom of the Well. It could be in Deku Tree from Exodus's perspective. But also, you don't want to go child and not have it. So how long can you push this adult segment, knowing it's improved once you get to those, like, massive dungeons, these huge density checks? How far can you push this without those items so that you get the item that you want before going child?
Ooh, a tricksy little maneuver here from Favio. Gonna go check Hyrule Castle 2 hint.
Ooh.
What's out there for them to find, honestly?
I assume there's something Favio's missing, but I think between them they have everything.
Treasure chest game hinted dead. There's a duplicate, so maybe. Yeah, not sure what they're missing there, but Favio does seem to be hunting for a hint.
At the very least, Favio is missing the Burning Kakariko one, because that was only in the desert and Favio doesn't have Requiem yet. I don't know what else that would be though.
Right, and it's not a rare sight. Oh, no, sorry, it's not a common sight, but it is something that I feel like I've seen more often than I expected. A super long child 1 here in brackets, and this goes to your point about pushing advantages and perhaps pushing too long, and sometimes, you know, you get into that mindset, that tunnel vision of like, oh yeah, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And just being so completely thorough and focused on, you know, pushing all the possible checks in an age where it would just be faster if you just age changed and hit a few of the spots and then come back and kind of cleaned up afterwards. So always that push and pull there of time spent in the different ages.
Yeah, I think different players have very different play styles on that as well. You know, some people are far more aggressive, some people are far more thorough. I would imagine if you did enough seeds, analyzed enough over time, you would find that there is an optimal way to do it. There is like a sweet spot on just how aggressive or thorough you should be. But because of the nature of a randomizer, the results don't always play out that the optimal play is the right one for the seed. And by nature of it being such a like fine variable of how aggressive you should be at different stages of a seed as well, we're never going to get to the point where that is perfectly analyzed. And so we will see those differences of some people are just more aggressive with their checks, some people are more thorough. And yeah, Favio seemingly liking those very thorough, very long child ones.
Definitely something we can appreciate about OOTR. It's not a solved game by any means. We've got lots of different play styles, and people, it's really one of the most exciting things about this tournament. You mesh these different play styles and different consoles and different controllers even, and you mash them together, and with a touch of luck, we crown a champion every year, and it's just super exciting here in the standard tourney. Welcome in, if you're just joining us, 43 minutes into our first round 3 of winners bracket match. I think it's our first round 3 match period, winners or losers. I think losers are still waiting on some matches to finish up, obviously, before they can have round 3. We got Favio, the 51 seed, Exodus, the 3 seed. I'm joined here by Yoshi Kion. Thank you guys for joining us so much. Been a volatile start to this seed. Also want to shout out our trackers there. We've got Star and Kalyana. We were getting the chat commands there. Get a shout out to our runners here, Exodus and Favio, just 2 masters of their craft here, putting on quite the show for us in this race. Thank you as well to Shiro for doing all the behind the scenes work here in the tech booth. Getting a little excited here with our shout outs. Just so pumped to see this matchup here. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's living up to it so far. This seed has been, from the first 10 seconds we saw a split, and it just has not come back since. They've gone off on wildly different paths, and we've not seen them converge. We've not seen it meet up. It's just, yeah, been a very exciting race so far, and doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon.
Yep, as you mentioned, that song that they played was Minuet of Forest, and so you see the main difference is that Favio was able to pick up Zelda's Lullaby within the first 10 seconds of their race, whereas Exodus went into Kakariko Village first, and then Favio grabbed Strength 2 out of Composer's Grave as a child checking the graveyard, whereas Exodus checked Composer's Grave as an adult and does not have magic and a fire source together combined, so they could not check and get that Strength 2. So we do have a big chest here on Child Side of Spirit.
Ooh! That is a huge one. And that also does some spicy things in terms of the hints here. So we had Fountain to Morpher, which ones? So Fountain to Morpher, River to Bongo is a very important one, and Graveyard to Volvagia is notable here as well. So it can't just be as simple as the hovers are in the river at that point then, unless you needed those to get this this hammer with, like, you needed something in the graveyard to get the hammer. Graveyard to Volvagia does not lead to that. So Volvagia has to be the hovers or something leading to them, at which point we don't know what's on frogs. Magic would make the most sense at this point.
Favio's first play as adult is to play Minuet and go into the Forest Temple. So we'll be seeing them follow in Exodus footsteps throughout Forest Temple there. And we got Exodus with some new checks there on the left side of the screen as he's going to open up the well.
And this makes perfect sense, right? We were talking earlier about the fact that you've got this river path, which we know is Frogs 1. I don't know if Exodus knows that at this point, but either way, you've got this river path, you've got storms being on the Kakariko path as well, to Twin Rover. There's a lot pointing towards frogs, but you're missing a bow. And you don't have a Phantom Ganon hint. You know for a fact that that bow is never getting hinted. So you just want to go for density at this point. And bottom of the well, I touched on it earlier. Checks per minute, like when we talk item density, that's checks per minute, not number of checks. In terms of density, bottom of the well is the best dungeon. Just the single best dungeon in the game.
Especially, it is sped up a lot by chest size matches content as well. And it's so good even that you'll often see runners come in here without explosives or without ZL. But we've got everything. We can clear out the well here, so we will see what goodies it has for us. All right, a lot of small keys and small chests thus far.
God, the peaks in this dungeon are so good though. I just like... You can fly through this. It was already fast and it got even faster. The fact that you can see everything without having explosives. I know there's been a lot of... Typically in the community over time, there's been a lot of talk about bottom of the well being really good or really bad or whatever. I genuinely think that if people are still thinking bottom of the well is bad, then that needs some reevaluating. This is pretty comfortably one of the best dungeons, if not the best dungeon in the game at this point.
Another peek here in the coffin. All right, so that is just a bloopy, but we did see a big chest en route. So Exodus will pop down here and pause.
I think there's a very real chance there's a bow. No, that's not it.
That would just be a stone.
There is a very real chance there's a bow somewhere in all of this, though. Just knowing that the bows aren't, like, locked behind other bows. Which, to be fair, there aren't that many checks that are bow locked. But, yeah, knowing that the bows, at least 2 bows have to be available, I expect one of them to be fairly early. And, well, Storms was in the windmill. Storms was incredibly early.
Alright, so let's see. Exodus, ooh, invisible chest at Dead Hand.
Oh! Well, that's the Kakariko path to Twin Rover covered.
That seems to fulfill the path.
Storms does, in fact, lead to the Mirror Shield, so that one's done. Still not sure what's on Frogs, though. That one's definitely an interesting one at this point, because it's probably magic leading to Bongo. And we know the hovers have to be somewhere else for Volvagia. But there's always that chance that you... It could be... Okay, this is like a very wild way to look at it, and it's very unlikely given no Phantom Cannon. It could be Ruto's letter to get you your long shot, and you need that to beat Shadow. That is an option.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I see. To cross the gap there.
Yeah, it's a very unlikely one because of the bows, but because otherwise, it's likely at that point your bows would be available, or only one is at that point and you get a Phantom Cannon hint. But, yeah, still a possibility. I would be pretty comfortable assuming it's just magic in River at this point, though, or something that directly leads to it.
Oh, another big chest in the well.
No. Oh! Very well timed Ocarina pull. And Exo's about to go and do Deku as well.
Alright, so, I mean, can't really blame the choice there. Is unbeknownst to them, they are going to give that time back to Favio.
But did manage to avoid them losing the time buying another shield, especially when you don't have the rupees here, so... At least dodging the fire keys there was really weirdly important.
The little things add up, Yoshi. Alright, so we are going to see here Favio... Oh, I thought, we're going to go do archery. We don't have a bow, so can't do that. They're just going to check 10 skulls and get a recovery heart.
Coming up in chat here as well, yeah, Volvagia could also... No, Volvagia can't be a bow because it would have hinted Phantom Ganon at that point. So, yeah. Volvagia at this point, I think, has to be the hover boots. I don't think there's another option.
Oh.
I'm willing to not assume it's Tunic Logic.
Yeah, I think you have to play like it's not Tunic Logic. It's just too risky to do otherwise.
Yeah, Favio just having a few tech issues. This happens. The runners are advised to local record their races just in case. Not a lot we can do about it, so we'll be commenting on Exodus' side of things for now, and we'll try to get caught up on what Favio has done once he comes back. But it looked like he was just on his way up to do Dodongo's Cavern, so I imagine we wouldn't see anything particularly new there. Meanwhile, Exodus did come back to Goron City, so this was one of the things where there was a potential to kind of gain some time back. Favio doing Goron City early. Exodus has come back here, so that time is, I guess, not lost for Favio.
Right, yeah. A good way to characterize the time differences and the push and pull there. Hey, we're back. Alright, so that was Adult Goron City. Okay, so. Good to have you back, Favio, as you're gonna stop Favio the Goron. Oh! That is Ruto's letter.
Oh. So that's a really big one from Storms as well. And that, we know, directly leads to the long shot in some way.
So that is 3 major items. Well, more than that. 3, I could just say 3 paths behind Storms.
Yeah, when people talk about Storms being a strong, like, song to get, you know, if you see Storms on all dungeons, you just assume it's all dungeons and that kind of thing. It's usually for just bottom of the well, but, well, Frogs and Kakiri Forest both paying out massively here.
Okay, now that our runners have turned in 10 skulls, and we've gotten the pleather out, do you imagine that the skull collecting slows way down?
Oh, for sure. I think, typically speaking, I know there's a couple of runners who are very big proponents of skulls being bad checks, essentially. In the sense that if you consider that every skull takes even 2 seconds, then you're talking 20 seconds for one check and then another 20 seconds for the second. And there's no way you hit 20 skulls with all of them taking 2 seconds. So there's definitely a kind of argument that the skull checks are very slow checks when you analyze them as individual checks.
Mm-hmm.
But even beyond that, going to Kakariko to turn them in can be really difficult. And so I think typically you only really want to push skulls while you have an incentive to go towards Cac. And the second you're done with Kakariko, your skulls slow down drastically because even if you collect them, when are you turning them in?
Great point. Yeah, it's not just the collection. It is that Skull House visit. All right, so runners,
grotto dip here to save the timer.
nice little play there. Don't want to burn up in the crater.
I thought Exodus, there's a strat that's been developed for Decatry, and we see some variations of it from a few runners where you can drop with a bomb and then like shield drop it at just the right time that it hits the skull below you, and you collect the skull as you fall. And I kind of thought Exodus was going to go for that there, but no, just went for a very consistent way to grab that skull quickly while falling down, which I think is generally good. I think one of the traps that a lot of people fall into with this game is going for all the fancy tricks and losing more time failing them than they gain from doing them.
You know, we are just now approaching that 1 hour mark, and it's looking like we're setting up for a bow mode.
Yeah, apparently so. We know where Longshot is. Obviously we know where Strength 2 is. Exodus doesn't, Favio has it. And we know where Hammer is. Exodus has it, Favio doesn't. Otherwise, Hover Boots, which we have at least a path towards. And yeah, no, there's not much more we're looking at here. We have things hinting towards Hover Boots, Longshot, lots of value waiting around, but no sign of a bow. Which we know has to be early. Early-ish.
Ish.
Yeah, it's like one bow cannot lock another, like the other bows. We know that much. The bows don't lock a whole lot, and the bows, like the dungeons locked by the bow, don't give us much of value. So it could be, you know, 2 early bows could mean, oh, one is on Baronade and one is on, I don't know, Twin Rover.
Ugh. You've spoken it into existence in my heart. Oh, please not. That would be gross. All right, Exodus is now gonna go check out Lake, which we saw Favio do within the first 20 or so minutes of their Child 1. There's the Iron Boots for Favio, hiding out in Dodongo's cavern.
Definitely think the edge is on Exodus's side at this point now, though. With Favio having that very long child segment and Exodus just having storms for this longer clear, Favio is going to have to go back child and then do a lot of walking around as child to get to all of Kakariko to Bottom of the Well, and also Kokiri Forest, and also Zora's River, and Domain as part of that to turn in the letter, presumably. There's going to be a lot of kind of back and forth that Favio's already done a lot of. I think at this point, the edge is on Exodus's side, but it's still a narrow one, and a bow could make all the difference here. The potential for that Volvagia hint as well. We know it's something behind the graveyard. That could be a big one.
Yeah, I think we're really gonna know more about Favio's position once we see them play Requiem and go move that Silver Gauntlet block.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think it's likely that Frogs has magic at this point, but there is still a chance that Exodus goes down here and just gets something else entirely. And at that point, actually, I don't know what could show up there though for to be passed to Bongo on Frogs. I'm not sure what else it could be.
Not a lot of options. Yeah, I guess boomerang would be the nightmare.
Yeah, you get the boomerang and then you just come straight back in and get magic anyways. Like, it can't... I don't think it can lead to anything but magic at this point. Whether that's directly or through a chain of other items.
As you can see, Dodongo's Cavern is just the staging grounds for Water Temple, having the Iron Boots and the Zora Tunic.
Strength couldn't show up on frogs, if I... Because the other strength was magic locked. We know that whatever's on frogs has to lead to bongo. And the only thing we're missing for that would be magic at this point. So it'd have to be, yeah, it'd have to be strength for spirit or Rudo area. But yeah, magic can't be outside Ganon's because one of our strengths was magic locked.
Right. Well, I mean, Magic 2 could be there, but...
Yeah, true. It's a really bizarre... I can not imagine playing through this seed and also navigating the logic for it. Because it's like, okay, well, you know, mentioned earlier the long shot could be required to get to bongo, but that's unlikely because we have no Phantom Ganon hint. So the odds of your bows being locked behind that are low. And then kind of navigating all of these hints while playing seems like this would be a wild seed for it. And honestly, I imagine the runners who play this seed best are the runners who can stay on top of their hints without essentially, I don't want to say panicking, but kind of going, okay, I'll do this play while I think about my hints. The people who can kind of comprehend it the quickest and make the correct play immediately, as opposed to having to have that time to process it.
Well, I don't think you could ask for two better runners than for Exodus, a bingo stalwart and a veteran from Standard Season 2, and then Favio having won that Triforce Blitz. That gives a litany of hints at the beginning that are very important to your racing, so...
Yeah, for sure. This is, yeah, definitely two of... Even within a very stacked bracket, I think these are two of the best runners for a seed like this. This is... incredible to watch so far. So we do assume we're going to see magic from frogs here. That could be a wild card in the works.
I can't even imagine something else.
If it's actually boomerang, I swear.
Oh,
Okay,
it's the magic.
It is
okay.
magic. Okay. So... Very importantly, the path of Volvagia was the graveyard, which had, we know, Strength 2. Exodus doesn't yet. A Kikiri Sword. They've both already done Deku. They both know that's worthless. And Din's Fire, which potentially leads to the Strength 2. I wonder how much you're valuing... So I assume you want to dip into Shadow first and just get those first two checks out the way? And then that's your opportunity to go and check the grave there as well. You can jump down, check that, walk back up.
Oh, never to be doubted. What a player. Snap into the composer's grave.
I guess this makes sense. Din's alone doesn't do much. This is one of, what? 4 checks right now that you could do with Dins. And I think one of those isn't even in logic. So 3 checks? Yeah. And it's in the same area you got the Dins. That's the path you're following. Just, yeah.
Ugh.
Good read. And
I've got a big dumb grin on my face watching Exodus and Favio play this race. Whew, man. You know what else? This is really going to highlight the execution of these runners. If I mean, this could be a very prolonged go mode, which is, might want to brush up on our vamping skills here, Yoshi.
Oh god, yeah, no, this is oof. Gonna have a if so. Exodus has what, the ability to beat fire out of logic, but it's slow to get to because no Bolero. And that's it at the moment. I assume we'll see Exo go over, pick up the long shot first and foremost, and then from there, the Spirit, maybe start with the Spirit play. Can beat Spirit as well, that's true. So I assume Exo will start with Spirit, and then if it's just hover boots in Spirit and the bow is in Spirit, which, you know, we'll see from Favio soon. There was a big chest over on the hand there. This is a 4.5 dungeon go mode, potentially.
We shall see. Just really digging on Exodus's push into Spirit Temple right now. I mean, obviously, it seems like a straightforward play, but juggling all this information, that's the...
It's there.
Okay.
Oh, that's... Okay, so the only hint left now is Graveyard Evolve, which cannot be the bow, because of... It would have been a Phantom Ganon hint if it were. So... We're gonna see hovers somewhere behind, presumably Strength 2.
Right, so now my mind starts racing and say, where can these hovers be? And now I'm starting to think, you know, Epona's is on OOT. No, but that long shot wouldn't be locked by anything in regards to all dungeons. So never mind. We can still cross to GTG.
Yeah, the long shot itself isn't, is it? Yeah. So you can cross over regardless of logic. It could be Epona. So it could be something like hovers on horseback archery, and the Graveyard to Volvagia is the Kokiri sword to beat Deku to get Epona.
Well. It could be that.
But they're gonna follow that Strength 2 first. You have to do Spirit. You probably just want to dip into the Gerudo training grounds regardless. Just again, strong dungeon, good play. So we'll probably see them do that either way. And at that point, you have a much clearer picture of what's actually required.
I do wonder if you just play Nocturne, though, after beating Twinrova, because it's basically the same if you go check those first two in Shadow and then just play Requiem again if hovers aren't there. Because if the hovers are in Shadow Temple or in Spirit here, that is Bolero on Burning Cack, so that would be your pathway to Fire Temple, getting up there easily.
Yeah, assuming they find nothing in Spirit, I think you have to... You want to dip Shadow, like, for certain. I think you absolutely have to. And to be honest, I think I'd have liked to see it before Spirit, because now it's difficult to route in. But I could see either argument on it. You can go over to the Gerudo area going, well, it's more likely it's Strength 2 there, and, like, Strength 2 locked there.
Ooh.
I'm gonna hold my thought for a second. Okay. Anyways. So, yeah, you can go over to the Gerudo area and then from there play Nocturne to go to Shadow. Or you can play Shadow and go, what time do I lose? Well, the time it takes me to play Requiem again. Not the biggest, not the biggest problem in the world.
Yeah, it is worthwhile to note that you can just go clear Forest Temple now, so you can just go do that. Mirror Shield was in the well.
Notably, we saw a forest dip earlier, but I didn't really count the number of keys or anything. There is always a world where forest is hoverlocked. It's very unlikely, but if it is, you know you're not finding anything there.
Rito's was in a storm's grotto. I believe that was the Kakiri storms.
Yeah. They have keys in forest. Okay, it was almost certainly not locked then.
Yeah, a couple keys, yep. Yeah, and so here we see the consequences of Favio's routing choices. They feel pushed. They're kind of feeling pushed a bit. Now they can go clear out forest, no problem. But you know they don't have the mirror shield, so they couldn't finish Spirit. It's gonna be. I mean, I think this is definitely Exodus's edge.
Yeah, that child as well is just so... It's been so valuable to Exodus having storms before doing that child segment. We kind of mentioned the strength of Favio having strength. The value of Favio having that early strength from the Composer Grave Torches. But very importantly, Favio didn't push that advantage and did a long child segment. Exodus got that strength very quickly and also did push the advantage of the early adult, getting the storms and then running with that into a ton of items that, you know, Favio isn't losing time now. Doing Forest at this point, it's required. Doing what Favio did in Spirit, a low amount of time lost. You have to go back at some point to finish it, that's it. But just the travel back and forth between locations, the age changes, this is a big advantage for Exodus at this point. And it pretty much all stems from storms being in the windmill. And I think Exodus was going back child when Favio was going adult for the first time already, so definitely just kind of played more aggressively and ran with it.
Another important note is that Favio did get locked out of Lon Lon with Time of Day, and that pushed them back into more child. So I do wonder if this sort of Time of Day routing sort of spiraled out of control for them. I'm not sure if that would have changed their child one routing, but it's definitely something that we could inquire about.
Yeah, for sure. If nothing else, it changes the order you do things, even if you plan to have that long child segment that Favio, you know, has done in other tournament matches as well. So it's like, you can kind of assume, yeah, Favio might have had a long child in this, but, sorry, weird phrase to say out of context. But it might not have been as extended as it was here, and can guarantee, yeah, the order at least, like, even if Favio did the same number of checks, might not have done them in the same route, the same order, and spent as much time on them without that. And again, Time of Day, you know, I mentioned it with Bomb Shoes earlier, I always say it with Feroz Wind as well. Those three are kind of, I think, the three big decision points that really separate out the best of the best runners. And even, you know, even the top runners will make mistakes on all three, and it's just a question of how often and how costly.
Well, yeah, and really, if you think about those as resources, it's resource management, which is after you've mastered the logic and you've mastered some of your technique within dungeons, resource management is the next thing to min-max in your gameplay. So just another tool in your arsenal, how you manage those sort of expendable resources, the time of day, your choose, you know, the list goes on.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where as you play more, you pick up certain habits. And so there'll be, you know, very clear paths where, okay, if I start in Child Kakariko, I can do this sequence of plays. And if I start in Kakiri Forest, I can do this sequence of plays. And you get an idea of, like, this is the time of day if I do these things in this order. And I can do that every time safely. And it's when those plays go astray, essentially. When something goes slightly off, and suddenly you have to reevaluate, reassess, and kind of just adjust on the fly, that's where it gets really difficult. And I think that is exactly what happened with Favio here, right? With the early value of getting the scale and taking that over to lake, into domain, into river, and there was so much movement early that it spent too much time. And suddenly Lon Lon wasn't an option.
And just from a pure sort of like heuristic, just like your one or two liner here, it's kind of like early songs versus early items. That's another decision that runners make. Do I push my songs? Do I push my items? And that's another difference here in these two early child cycles.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of looked like it was paying out for Favio in that regard, because that early song was big. It was a really big deal. But after that, I think it kind of went from there. Favio went, okay, songs first and then items. And Exodus got that early check and then just went, okay, songs and then hints. And that hint logic has been what's really pushed him here. He's played a little more aggressively towards them. I wouldn't say he's played aggressively, but more so than Favio has towards the hints. And I think that's really benefited him here. And, we talked earlier about how there's probably a sweet spot of how aggressive you're meant to be. I mentioned as well, I think Exodus has made kind of leaps and bounds in his rando gameplay this year. Obviously, execution god, one of the best, if not the best in the community for it. But I think this year in particular, his rando routing has really stepped up. And I think a big part of that is probably getting a grasp of just how aggressive he should be for his playstyle.
Yes, whenever good players learn their strengths and play to them, they become a force to be reckoned with. As we see Twin Rova, phase 2 gonna go down here. Yep, no problem there for Exodus. Easy peasy. Gonna collect the fire medallion. Favio gonna follow soon behind in the basement of Forest Temple.
Yeah, got the split dungeons here. Oh, we managed to get through an entire forest temple. Amazing.
Riley.
It's still wild to me that Exodus didn't play on VT for the longest time. They're like kind of the speedrunner, the strats, the kind of one of the mainstays of the OOT community. Not just OOTR, but like the OOT community. And it's like wild to me that EXO played on me for so many years.
Alright, so not going to play Nocturne. They have a full Forest Temple to clear out, so that is what they're going to do. Exodus into the Forest Temple as Favio is approaching Phantom Ganon.
We'll get a teeny bit of double forest. Only a tiny bit to worry about.
Just a catnap here for our viewers.
Okay, I know Favio has some unbelievable keyboard strats. If Favio has managed a one-cycle Phantom Ganon on keyboard, I will pay him. I will straight up just go and donate to him, like, on the spot.
Let's see it, Favio. I want to see it.
You went up to the gate there and I started to... Okay, it doesn't look like it. I would be impressed to see that. That to me, that's like the ultimate keyboard goal. Alright, still a very smooth, very quick fight for Favio though. Just... Phantom Ganon, in a weird way, if you're not going for the one cycle, I actually think the keyboard movement would be really good for that. Because keyboard is obviously... It has its downsides. Precision is not good. But when it comes to box movement and very, like, precise up, down, left, right, yeah, like, what's gonna be better? Favio's safe quitting back. I assume this will be the child play, following those hints, pushing those storms checks a little more. That's kind of exhausted all of his plays as adult, to be honest, which... It almost feels like that's part of Favio's playstyle here, is exhaust whatever age you start as, do everything you can, and then change age, do everything you can. Minimize those age changes, which they are costly. They are very slow to change age, but it also ends up costing a little bit when, you know, in a situation like this, you end up isolating a few of those items in the opposite age while traversing around as child without having storms for ages, and then going adult without having the mirror shield and doing half of spirit and so on. I think we're seeing the downside of that where it worked for him in the previous matches.
Right, yeah. And it's something that, you know, if you're setting up on an opponent, it's something that you, as Exodus, you could know that this is Favio's playstyle, and you could you know, wrap your strategy in this certain race around that. I don't know if that's what Exodus has done, but it's definitely a, you know, a possibility on the table.
Yeah, I do find it really surprising. Generally speaking, talking to runners, you know, interviews in previous tournaments, this tournament, people I know, whatever. There is very little scouting that goes on in the OoTR community. There are, I think of all the people I've spoken to, I think I've known of like 2 people to really go and watch their opponents' races and get a grasp of what plays they're more likely to make. But it definitely is the kind of thing that you can scout. I think the thing for a lot of people is it can then be difficult to figure out what that means. Okay, you know your opponent is more likely to stay child for ages and have a really long child segment. Does that change how you play? Probably not in Exodus's case.
Yeah, I don't know that it would necessarily change your starting strategy, but it definitely could give you more information about your positioning, at least, and that could change some of your you know, your in race tactics there. If you feel like you would be ahead or behind, knowing that, you know, your opponent is gonna clear out all of your child.
Yeah, for sure. And I think most of the time those kinds of metagame decisions, people... I think there are some very good metagamers in this community, and there are some less good ones. There's a wide range. I think that's kind of the big thing, is metagaming should be a call of your opposition, and not just, you know, oh, I think I'm behind because I was late getting this item, so I'm going to make a gamble and do some wild play. It should be, okay, my opponent will have got this early, and I got this earlier, so I should push this. Or if you are going to just be like, okay, I am definitely behind, the end, I need to make a risk, it shouldn't be a wild risk. It should be the second or third best option, and then commit to that, follow it through, follow anything you find there. So, you know, if you find the lens there, go child and go and do lens game. There's definitely places where I think people are either too prone to gambling and go for very extreme risks, or don't commit to their gambles, find something and then bail and go and do the safe play. And a lot of that will be playstyle, but then if that's the case, if you're going to commit to your playstyle, don't commit to the metagame call to begin with.
Yeah, there there are so many ways to lose time in an OOTR seed any given way. I think a way to think about metagaming, I brought this analogy up before, you know, to win the game, you have to make the checks that are correct. So when you're thinking about you in a race with your opponent, sometimes it's a simple fact of it's not the checks that you do make, it's the checks that you don't make. And so that's another way to approach metagaming as well. What checks are you committing not to make, and you know what does that mean for your opponent as well? So there's definitely different ways to approach this this style of making a call, quote unquote. Now, you know, if you're on the lower side of seeding and you know that getting through go mode dungeons, you're going to lose time to a top tier runner like Exodus, then I can see a little bit more of wilding out and trying to have variance be your friend. But you know, when you're executing at such a high level and your technique throughout the dungeons is very precise and crisp, I do think that people get into their own heads a little bit too much.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, at the end of the day, kind of the nature of a randomizer is that sometimes the right play, quote unquote, is the wrong play. And the metagame calls can work, but also the nature of a randomizer is different people react to different things. Even in this seed alone, we said, you know, 20 seconds in, they were on completely different paths. If neither of them, it doesn't matter how good these two are at metagaming. I think the best metagaming in the community I've seen was Marco versus Banoru, where they managed to predict each other's paths inside out. But like, even runners in that situation, I think if you put them in this seed with these openings, that's it. It's gone. There's a certain point where you cannot metagame that far, and when it has been wildly different for over an hour, that's it. Metagaming is worthless at that point. Just play your game. So this is an interesting one. Favio went to river, got the magic, did not do bottom of the well, did get the letter out of the Kakiri Storm's grotto. So Favio is going adult here, I guess, to the exact point we were just making. Favio's playstyle to this point has been to full clear whatever age he is in, and now he is skipping the well, and it has the mirror shield.
Yeah, it seems like they sort of go in very large circles, so to speak, or very large spheres, and then start constricting their checks as they get later into a seed, and this could just, I mean, this is pretty much nothing but a time loss now for Favio, unfortunately.
Yeah, and yeah, coming up in chat there, Child Spirit as well, we know has the hammer. So Favio, I guess in a way this is like, it's just the wrong seed for it. Favio did that very long child segment that didn't really offer that much overall, and then has done a very, very short child 2, and has missed 2 items as a result.
Alright, so we are now 90 minutes in as Exodus has collected his 3rd medallion. Favio has 2 medallions. The difference there being Exodus has the mirror shield out of bottom of the well, as we were just discussing, and was able to beat Twin Rova and grab that fire medallion. So now, Exodus, we're following Exodus, and they were probably going to the fire temple, if I had to guess.
Yep. This looks like a fireplace for sure, yeah. And this is kind of a good opportunity to get it as well. You have no idea where you're... I mean, you know your hovers have to be locked behind Strength 2 or Kakiri Sword or Dins at this point, but that's like half the game at this point. So just going here while you're nearby makes perfect sense.
Don't mind me, Goron City. I'm just passing by. This Exodus is going to head into the crater and into the fire temple. Alright, so now we see Favio Favio is going to pursue the long shot.
Yeah, and I guess we'll probably just clear ice while at it. Doesn't offer a huge amount right now. We know the song there is Prelude, but having Prelude isn't the worst thing here either. And, you know, bunch of checks along the way. Those haven't been hinted at all, so grab the long shot and then just clear out the area. I think, unfortunately, we do know that this can't lead to hovers. So, obviously, in Fabio's perspective, it could still be the hammer or the mirror shield. Or I guess, from Favio's perspective, it could be the hovers, and the Volvagia hint could be for the hammer. But we know that's not the case.
Earliest of boss keys. I guess I should say shallowest fire temple.
The lowest Goron.
Lowest Goron for Exodus.
I guess it's not the lowest Goron the vanilla boss key chest is, a floor down. The highest Goron isn't the highest one either, so whatever.
Unhighest Goron. We can just call it that. Alright. This ought to be a quick one here, folks. Volvagia v Exodus. I didn't see if they have bomb cheese equipped.
Yeah, I didn't see. Wouldn't surprise me if Exo's done. Oh, it was in Icy Waters for the long shot. Nice. Okay, just the safe, consistent strat. This is age old at this point. Just in case people are new to this, Volvagia essentially has 2 hitboxes. One when it flies, and one when she's popping out the holes playing whack-a-mole. The flying hitbox can still get clipped by bombs if you put them just on the corner of that hole near the front. And so 7 bombs, a couple of jump slashes, and you're done.
Dead Dragon. 4th medallion. Well, that does count down. That does cut down some of our commentary time, since we won't have to clear out a full fire temple. You can't have hovers back here.
Exo sequencing. No, yeah, no. And actually, being this early, I think it's very unlikely they're in fire as well, because we know it has to be hoverlocked at some point. And yeah, you could get a key in the boss key loop at the start, go through with the hammer, get a key, go into the lava room, and then probably get locked out pretty soon after that. Okay, I was about to say I think Exodus has routed that incredibly well as well, because I thought he was going to just leave from there to go to Ice, but deciding to dip into Shadow first. I guess this makes sense. If you find hovers behind Dins here, then you know you don't have to do Ice. Whereas here...
Oh, good point, yeah.
Picking up the long shot, you can then commit to Ice, potentially. But, I'm not sure if Exo has a reason to commit to Ice. I don't think it would ever lead to anything at this point. I guess Boomerang, if it's Kokiri Sword is the path in the graveyard, and you need to do all dungeons for horseback archery.
Man, it would be... I mean, it would be to Favio's advantage if it was all dungeons, because that would put a Rang hunt into play. But I mean, just for the sake of this race, I don't really want to see all dungeons here. I mean, it's been a great race and a great seed thus far.
Mm-hmm. And you know, we still have a lot of options. There's still a lot that could play out here. The entire Gerudo area is now in Logic except for horseback archery, so. I would be absolutely stunned if GTG did not come into play here. And whether that's for a Boomerang or the hovers, I don't know.
Did not full clear Ice. Interesting.
Huh.
Well, they knew... Well, okay, so... this
Okay.
goes into... It's a wallet.
So I've done commentary on, I think, 4 races in the tournament now, and 2 of them have had vanilla hovers. So there was that moment of hesitation.
So I guess that's tunic logic then, huh?
It might be. It might not be. I would still assume it isn't at this point, honestly. But I think more importantly, regardless of what your assumption is, whether you're assuming that's it and you're just doing density, or whether you're like, no, I should follow the graveyard stuff more still. Regardless, I think your next play is going to be to go to the Gerudo area. Strength 2 for Gerudo Training Grounds. The Strength 2 block to get keys to go into the maze would make a ton of sense. But also, it's just your densest location at this point. You've cleared out most of your dungeons. You've cleared out most of your big overworld areas. I think that's the direction we're probably looking in from Exodus here. After, of course, he picks up this locker shot.
Melee, you could metagame against me. I am always wrong. Oh, and I tell you, I would be an insane metagamer. I'm an econ student, so I would do some wild things, but I do not play this game well enough to ever showcase that. So I'll just leave my thoughts here to the comms booth.
I metagame very, very aggressively, and the problem is that even if I'm right 90% of the time, that other 10% is too costly. I think my wild metagaming has paid out massively exactly once.
Okay, so Cracked Wall in Water Temple has the boss key, so another short temple here. Alright.
Yeah, we were worried about that 5 dungeon go mode, but no, it's just Shadow to worry about at this point from, I guess, between the 2 of them. Favio, of course, has to go child again, has to dig around a little deeper, but I really wonder if Favio... How does Favio go child again at this point? Like, I guess part of my concern here is, why would you not do Bottom of the Well in the last child segment? And the answer there is, like, there's 2 answers. One is, you want to push the long shot because you've got a very specific play in mind. And the other one is, you're metagaming on the fact that you've just had a very long child and then a very long adult. And you're gambling the fact that your opponent didn't. They went adult, they got Storms, and they've already done Bottom of the Well, and you're committing to not doing it. And, I mean, I made my thoughts on Bottom of the Well very clear earlier, but very distinctly with that, Favio then gets stuck in that loop. Because at that point, it's near enough a last location for him.
Well, let's hope it's not for Favio's sake, but it could be where we're trending, as Exodus is going to head into Ice Cavern. The only thing that we did not see from Favio would be that last treasure of Ice Cavern. You know, that is, you know, speaking of kind of long individual checks, I can understand it from Favio's perspective. You know that it's Prelude. It's not a song that you necessarily need. Although, you know, Prelude might make up the time for having to go and clear out the Silver Rupee room. I'm not exactly sure on the timing there. Oh, it is hinted dead. I'm sorry. Thank you, Star. Well, you're keeping me honest there. That's why we saw Favio Bell. Thank you.
Still very, easy time, I guess, game for Favio here, in that Exodus is committing to ice at this point. You know, assuming, I don't remember who has seen which hints at this point, assuming Exodus has seen that the graveyard is on the path evolve, which I think he has, then he should know at the very least the hovers can't be in ice. But there is a world where the boomerang is, and you need to do all dungeons. So I can definitely understand doing the checks here, for all that it's unlikely that it has the item thereafter.
Next to the letter. Okay, all right.
I mean, for what it's worth, I don't actually know if Exodus was reading hints at that point. I assume he did, and it's a very kind of, I don't know, clear assumption to just be like, oh, you read the hints in the grottos, but I've definitely been tripped up by runners not doing that before.
I comsed one. Oh gosh, where I comsed a rather infamous hint skip in this tournament. I believe it was the Ice 9 versus Earl Weird matchup. Go back and check that VOD there. Ice 9 missing a hint and prolonging the seed by about 20 minutes. All right, so Favio is now going to go check the well. Yeah, I could see, I could kind of see their reasoning there. Like, well, I gotta go find what's behind these storms checks. I did find a letter, so let me go back to adult and go get my long shot. Yeah, it's another age change though. I think they were hoping for a bit more of a payout there, and they just didn't get it. So they're gonna swallow their pride, gonna swallow their metagame or whatever decision they made, and just go for the density at bottom of the well. That's another good skill to have. Being in like, okay, well that was a sunk cost. I really need to go find more items, so let's go to the well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the big question here will be if Favio goes to Spirit afterwards. But at the very least, just kind of getting to that point of, okay, I put this off for too long. And at this point, if I don't do it now, I'm never doing it. And I think never doing it is the wrong play. So I have to do it now. That's a difficult call to make, and it's a good call to be able to make. And again, at that point, you get into that very fine line of back and forth of, okay, if you take a risk, you should commit to it, but then if you... At some point, the risks have to be very carefully considered risks around, like, what your opponent's doing, around what you're doing, and at some point, knowing when to not commit to those, and there's just so many kind of moving parts that there's a good reason that a lot of top runners, if you ask them about metagaming, just say, yeah, I don't do it. I just don't even try, I just do my own thing.
And you know, there you have it. Like, talk about that. We do see the same runners bubbling up to the top of quals and these tourney finishes, you know, over and over again. You know, we do get new blood in there and new people into the community, but those mainstays are mainstays for a reason. And you know, they play to their strengths and they execute when they need to, and they understand the logic very well. And you know, just a peppering in of metagame or calls for them, risk reward for them to take is really all they need to stay at the top. But that does mean there are always opportunities in a randomizer, and that's what we come to see here. Thank you so much for those calm shout outs. We've got Exodus, the number 3 seed, Favio, the number 51. Myself in the booth here, I'm Hagmania, joined by Yoshikion. Thank you so much for joining me here on commentary tonight. We've got Star and Carliana, they're tracking. Shiro is doing the restream, and Scooby is our race monitor. Thank you so much. Also, did we get a exclamation point volunteer? If you would like to join us helping these races come to the masses here, here on ZSR, check out that link. Volunteering is the lifeblood of these restreams. We couldn't do it if we didn't have the people. So if you think you've got some time and you want to learn, or you've got some know-how already and want to apply that, click that link, follow it, and see what you can do for us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, for sure. I've kind of dipped in and out of commentary a lot over the last few years, but I am always more than happy to pull new people in and get... People always talk about, oh, commentary is daunting because I don't know the logic, and there are guides, there are people who are willing to help. People can more than happy to help learn the ins and outs of this game, to help new commentators come in and new blood into the community and into the commentary pool.
If you are just joining us, thank you. We are an hour and 47 minutes into the seed. Yoshi, why don't you explain where we're going and what we need?
Yeah, so Favio making a right call here, actually. So put off that bottom of the well play, had a very long child into a very long adult. Adult had storms, and Favio put off bottom of the well. Did just get the mirror shield there, is about to get the hammer and spirit, and that'll mean a spirit completion, a fire completion, and then a hunt for the hover boots, which we know are locked behind a graveyard path of Volvagia that had the Kokiri sword, Strength 2, and Din's Fire. And so those are the paths they're looking at the moment. That's the tunnel vision towards their finale.
Yeah, there is now the real likelihood that we have to be facing bait path logic there with that wallet behind Din's, but I still think the runners play towards that Strength 2. I think that is the strongest play.
I think the thing with the wallet is you can get the other wallet or a tunic to mitigate that. We've not had them hinted, we've not seen any of them. So there's a very real chance here that, yeah, that's just available somewhere and we don't know exactly where, but it's irrelevant. The other point there is, okay, they've already dipped Shadow, they've already done most of their fire checks, so potentially the Wasteland, but that's about it. That's a really bad timing. This bridge must be a nightmare on keyboard. Oh my god.
What an absolutely rude room.
But yeah, so there's a handful of fire checks. We've already done Deku Tree, so it could be horseback archery and you need a boomerang. And then it could be Strength 2. Whether you're playing for those are your path and you're following those to hovers, or hovers could be anywhere and I'm doing density, you're just clearing out checks at this point, partially because even with those paths you might need the boomerang, and partially because following Strength 2 takes you to the Gerudo training grounds, and that is by far the densest layer, and the whole Gerudo area is just untouched at this point. And pretty much everything else is near enough cleared at this stage. Exodus is actually being very thorough at this point, clearing out these field checks first.
Speaking of clearing out these extra checks and borrowing from another 3D Zelda randomizer, you could see a play here of making these checks kind of hunting for that wallet and or tunic, kind of fishing for those items, because that would snap into place that your hovers are behind that graveyard path if you were able to find them. Right,
yeah. Between the potential of the wallet, the fact that you might need a boomerang, and the potential to just find a wallet or tunic that guarantees that path, I can understand going for these plays here, and also, if you don't get them here, you're probably just never getting them. So, I definitely see the merit of Exodus's play here. For all the, I mentioned earlier, I generally like the aggressive plays. I think I would have wanted to see a Gerudo area immediately, but playstyle differences. None of us know where the perfect amount of beeline to your hints really is.
There have been gobs of matches already in Season 6, and I've seen gobs of setups to that Bombchu check. That valley peak there.
Seeing hovers there in particular is always one of the most infuriating as well, because there is a trick to get that as adult using the hovers. Nighttime Gerudo guards do not see a thing, and you want to get caught here to peek this rooftop chest, so Exodus having to really do some work there to get seen.
Alright, gonna get up close and personal again with a guard here in Gerudo. Gonna get that card. Gonna dip into GTG. Yeah, a major time loss coming up here for Favio when they have to double dip into Spirit to kill Twin Roba. They were in there once already, and I'm going to have to go back in because they did not have the Mirror Shield on their first trip.
Yeah, there's been a lot of little things that they've both done that's like, oh, this could save someone time, but they've ended up kind of both mostly ended up doing the same things. They both did Childgore City, they both double dipped into Forest. Spirit feels like the big difference here, obviously beyond that Storm's routing earlier.
And it was just a consequence of the Storm's routing. So, there you go. Storms being the pivotal song thus far. Is Favio going to get that uncertain news about the wallet behind Dens? Alright, so we're going to see the Stalfos check here from Exodus as they begin their crawl through the Gerudo training grounds.
Do you think as well, like, playing around the potential of the wallet path there is again one of those things of... I always say the most valuable logic reading skill as a runner is not just reading the logic, but knowing when to ignore it. And in a situation like this, like, yeah, the wallet could be path, and it could not be. We don't know. But at this point, do you care? Does it matter? And the answer's probably no. And so we're just going to see them both push ahead, do their density, do the most checks, and that also just leads them towards following their hints regardless. So at this point, they're not worried if that wallet matters. Exodus.
Yeah,
Playing with fire here as well.
Not even close, baby, says Exodus on a quarter heart.
Digging for heart pieces from the small chests.
Oh yeah, and the paths aren't like mutually exclusive. It's true to say that Dens, just as you were pointing out, it's true to say that Dens could be the wallet. Oh, big chest. Dens could just be for the wallet, but doesn't exclude Hovers being behind Strength 2.
Right, yeah.
Oh, I was so ready for Hovers. Just a slingshot. That is a feature, not a bug, of CSMC here. It makes for some good bait for our audience.
Exodus still gonna dig for those heart pieces and containers here. More recovery hearts. That's enough to void out and...
What a gamer!
Exodus has to take damage twice coming up, potentially. Like, there's a lot of risk here. I actually missed... Did Exodus go into the maze and dip the top bow-locked one here? I don't think he did, so I think he's gonna have to void out here.
Yeah, he's gonna have to void out. The main reason that Exodus is ahead, if you're just now joining us, is they push their storms into bottom of the well. That really the main difference, I would say. Favio falling a bit victim to their playstyle with the early extended child.
Yeah, the long child into long adult, with adult having storms, really biting Favio here. That's almost entirely the cause on this one. And, you know, we kind of noted that Favio's playstyle is to do these long child segments into long adult segments. And it's worked thus far, but we're really seeing the drawback of that now. When that first adult song is valuable, that's it. It can be very costly. The Rexo just clearing out again. Potentially the wallet is the path. Potentially needs a boomerang because Kokiri's sword is the path, and he needs to do horseback archery. But we'll now go through and grab that chest in the maze. There was at least a big chest in the ceiling room. I couldn't really see much in the maze. I don't think there was anything.
I did not see big chests in the maze. Ooh. Ha. Okay.
Okay, and I guess nothing in the maze then, yeah. So what now? I'm gonna see a toilet play from Exodus, it looks like. Oh, we haven't seen this room yet. Right, 'cause he failed. Lava.
Yep. I think they would have died if they would have continued on their path. Oh!
I guess we
might die here? Oh, clutches it out. No problem.
Okay, I was gonna say we might not see a toilet play because he might die to that, but I think they have a Zora tunic. I think both runners got the Zora tunic earlier. No, we're still not seeing it though. I will say one of the biggest shifts with chest size matching contents is it's very difficult to keep track of your key counts. Whether Exodus is leaving because he thought that was a key, or whether he's leaving because it's just a slow, bad check that he doesn't want to do, I don't know. But, yeah, definitely a very difficult skill to get used to at this point. Did not see what that item was, and I'm guessing neither did Exodus from that, or he saw something useful. Oh my...
Are you kidding? Wait.
So the strength in the graveyard isn't locked by that, but outside Ganons could now have hovers. And be part of the path. You just go there. Straight there.
Oh, I'm confusing seeds. Okay. When you watch a lot of OoTR. Alright, never mind. I'm back. My mind has broken there for a second seeing that string 3. Okay. Alright, back on track here. Gonna see outside Ganon's castle. Yeah, Kokiri's sword, nothing.
Yeah, as it currently stands, Kokiri's sword does lock opponents if they find a boomerang somewhere. But, Din's locked a wallet, that's a potential risk, but more likely we're looking towards this strength for something.
Alright, what does Yeet give us?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, so does that mean Jabu has the hovers, or is it all dungeons?
A very happy 2 hours as we find the boomerang. Big Pose has not been done yet.
Yeah, I definitely think... Wait, what is Exo playing for here?
Adult shooting. Okay, yeah, so there is... This is an unresolved check.
I guess if you're assuming the wallet is the path, this makes sense. Yeah, at this point, I almost expect to see Exodus go Child to do Jabu. Whether we see a big pose out of logic on the way first, oh my.
Lens of truth on the adult shooting game.
It's probably irrelevant.
Yeah, that is irrelevant, I would say. That is hinted dead.
But yeah, very specifically, so the strength led to the boomerang, so Jabu could have the hovers, and also, or 3 of the checks in Jabu, I guess, could have hovers, and also 3 opponent checks. So there's an argument to do the, like, 1 in 6 to do big pose first for your hovers. You could also just go Child and be done with it, but I think the big thing here is Favio's off to beat Fire now, has beaten Spirit, beaten Fire, and then we'll presumably head over to that Garuda area and also find that Strength 3 and follow this path. That is a lot of time to follow this path along.
As is many the case with a front-loaded seed, got a bit of a noodler here to figure out this last item, that being the hover boots.
An interesting one for it as well. I feel like normally those last item hunts are like bins to get into Shadow maybe, or like Longshot and Boomerang are the biggest offenders by far. Hovers doesn't open much, and at the same time has a lot of logical implications.
Alright, Bob, what do we have? Looks like Deep Fire.
Wow! So Exodus really committing to that wallet path and going into Deep Fire for... I guess we have all of Fire pretty much available, but if Exodus sees a wallet here, that just confirms that path, but obviously not strictly, but like in his head, if he's already assuming it's the path, he'll see a wallet in here and be like, this has to be it, this has to be it then.
Yeah, first check was Boss Key.
Yeah, no, this is Favio's out as well, because Favio could easily just follow this to Strength 3 and do all dungeons, while Exodus is off doing checks assuming it's a wallet. Really interesting point in chat there, where it's like, if you just assume it's the wallet and that's it, you never go over to the Garuda area potentially. Do you go to Deep Fire in that case though? Would you really commit to doing Fire after beating Volve immediately?
Alright, Favio, what is your call? Looks like reversing. Rain was outside Ganon's castle.
Alrighty, in the time it takes Favio to get over to this, it's the perfect time to grab a drink. So I'll be back in a second.
What a routing decision by Yoshi, leaving you all in my hands. as Favio goes to check the haunted wasteland. Alright, Exodus. Gonna start clearing out the deeper parts of fire. We have not seen what's in haunted wasteland. We're about to find out now. Keys, keys, keys everywhere. Oh my god, big chest! Okay. Big red sword. Gonna make the long climb up out of Haunted Wasteland and over to Gerudo Training Grounds. I got baited real hard there. Oh, my heart started pumping. Okay, so, Favio now going to, we presume, eventually find that string 3 after clearing out GTG. And my question is, I mean, I trust Exodus to be counting keys correctly, but that is my question. Is there an item or key on the quote-unquote toilet check of GTG that would be the swirling rubies? Yeah, Exodus built a very big lead in that. Oh, big chest, deep fire, the hover boots. That's it. Go.
That's what I got back. Oh my god.
You missed a big chest in Haunted Wasteland, Yoshi. I popped for that big chest, and it was Big Run Sword.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought like, oh, we're just seeing Trotting Ground. I'd forgotten that Exo hadn't done Wasteland on the way in. I was like, this is fine. This is good time to. I've been a bit ill today. I was like, good time to stop. And then immediately I get up and like mute mic, walk away, headphones going. I was just like, big chest immediately in the Wasteland. Okay, good.
Oh dear. Go, go, go! And that's not just a glow mode. We have the light arrows as of like 2 minutes into the seed. So that is go be Ganon. Gonna have to go finish off Bongo Bongo, clearing out a Shadow Temple and then into Ganon's Tower.
Definitely a lot of points where Favio could have come back into this. You know, if it's just all dungeons here, I think Favio might take that at that point. But yeah, this is just absolutely incredible call from Exodus here. Really strong play from both of them the whole way through, but just Favio's playstyle has very kind of, I think, exaggerated strengths and weaknesses. When it's good, it's incredible, and when it's bad, it kind of falls apart. And in this seed, it kind of fell apart a bit.
Yeah, really, you know, and this is nothing to disparage Favio about, but this was just an outclass, really, by Exodus. Just a really great route from Exodus, and just super strong play throughout. Really built up a big time advantage, and it's just gonna just kept a stranglehold on it.
Like, if Storms had been the hinted magic and nothing else, Favio likely runs away with this one. And, you know, both of them, execution has been fantastic on both sides, as I guess we've come to expect from these two runners in particular. Okay, well timed. And Favio did have that early advantage, but it all kind of fell apart because Storms was in adult and Exodus went back and followed that very quickly, while Favio just essentially threw time into a lot of checks that didn't lead to anything and ended up backtracking a lot as a result. And Yeah, it's been a really interesting one. It's again, I don't want to take anything away from Exodus with this one because Exodus has played this perfectly, almost. Has played his game plan to perfection, just very kind of aggressive early, but not needlessly aggressive. Just kind of play more to the hints and the density early on and play more thorough later, and has really just pushed that advantage to the end. But I definitely think a lot of this came down to Favio's early decisions, and it only takes a couple of items being in different places for Favio to run away with this. As it was, Favio got lost completely behind storms, and Exodus runs away with this one.
A cruel mistress, Hooter.
Of course, not over yet. There's a double elimination tournament, and this is winners bracket round 3. We will talk about their potential upcoming matchups. Neither of them have them decided yet. So, as far as I know, there shouldn't be any super recent spoilers in the results, but with so many matches going on, it could be a little difficult to keep up with when they're all happening. So, if you don't want to know about the rest of the bracket, there's your warning for the interview.
Yeah, we've just about completed all of our winners round 2, and this is the first match of winners 3. So still a lot to be decided here up and down the bracket before either runner gets to play again, probably. So they'll have a bit of time. Just the nature of these large tourneys, especially double elimination, there will be a little bit of time here. I wonder. I wonder, do you just play practice speeds to keep fresh? Is it the same as prepping for a 1v1 race? I wonder what these runners do to keep sharp,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different approaches with it. I think the most, not necessarily the most common. So I guess the easy answer is you do a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You do occasional pickup races with like 6, 7, 8 people. You play weeklies. You message people and do 1v1s. You practice tricks and so on. But I think the big thing I've seen from a lot of the top runners is directly hunting down 1v1s and getting that experience of playing one person very specifically. Because one of the nature of this game and the nature of tournaments and tournament structure with a lot of the way it goes, it's changing more now, but typically it's been very like big race dominated. You do weeklies, you do pickup races. Tournament quals would all have just been everyone's in a big race and we give a point structure at the end of it. That's changed a little now, but that 1v1 experience is still a very different game that you're playing. And I definitely know a few people who will just message around, usually within the tournament channels or like directly to people who are also in the tournament and go, hey, does anyone want to do a 1v1? So yeah, it's just going into the after the fan hint room, going towards the chest in there, and then realizing actually I can just beat the dungeon. Had 2 keys and the boss key, so Exo is straight on, clearing out Shadow here.
An absolute treat. Not something you see often. An actual go modable Shadow in go mode. So.
Favio, meanwhile, well, did come over to the Gruder area, did pick up that strength, is gonna go turn it in. Turn it in, as though it's a trade item. As well
Yeah, it is just a fetch quest, yeah. Oh, I missed that it was a recovery hard on Lax. That's funny. I missed that on Exodus' side.
Yeah, I can only assume Favio is going to go and start on Jabu before Exodus finishes here, so it doesn't take much for Favio to win this race, but that is not how this game plays. And like, I'll hold my hands up here and say, like, I'm a big proponent of not just reading the logic, but reading what's likely within the logic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was likelier that a hint with all of those items led to the hovers and the wallets are just somewhere. But that is not what happened. Exodus had a very good read of like, okay, I'm just going to play a full clear, I'm just going to be thorough and do everything and logic be damned. And it worked out perfectly fine.
And these are repeatable results on Exodus's side. Very obviously the super strong showing, Speed Gaming Live, taking down that online tournament, and just cruising through quals, getting the three seed, and now you just going through the motions, playing their game. These 3 wins here. Someone to study, I would think. I think this is a race to study. You know, we've seen these early child 1, adult 1 sections really build up big leads that then could be evaporated or so forth. But these first couple of sections are, study your openings.
I also think this is just a masterclass in like knowing your playstyle and playing to it. Exodus, if we want to talk execution runners in the community, like high execution runners, Exodus is, you know, the number of people who are better than Exodus execution is single digit. And depending on who you talk to, it might be 0. Like, he might be the best in the community. He's definitely one of the best. So playing that thorough, I'm just going to do everything as early as it's available, pretty much. Like, I'll just be thorough and efficient and clear everything in the best sequence possible, plays to his strengths. And yeah, there's a world where he loses here to it's all dungeons and your opponent makes the call to do that first. But Exodus had a good understanding of the logic, realized it could work this way, and just went, okay, I'm just going to play my game. And his game is to clear the game before his opponent can. And he might, honestly, even if it had been all dungeons, even clearing fire, there was a world where Exodus gets there first still.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think we're seeing really just that differentiation in the Storms pickup and really the Mirror Shield pickup, I would say at this point. It's leading to a full Shadow Temple completion's worth of finish time here. It's a fast Shadow, but still a full Shadow Temple completion, so...
I will say, like, I'm talking about execution on Exodus' side. Exodus is a really interesting player to watch for me. I think he's very similar to What the Hell's in this regard. They both are very, very, very high execution players, but they don't do anything fancy. There's a lot of high execution players who will commit to, like, really over-the-top tricks, and they'll learn every new strat, and they'll do all these really intricate things that, when they work, are great, but you spend a lot of time practicing stuff that doesn't come up super often, and if you get it wrong, you lose a lot of time. Exodus, and I think What the Hell's as well, are both runners who, they just play a very safe, very consistent game, and they play it very well.
The hover boots were in Fire Temple, deeper into fire. Yeah, I think it's an evolution of the community. We got a lot of runners in here chatting about the state of things right now. Gab bringing up a good point. The small time saves. I mean, obviously they can matter. We've seen races that come down to, seconds. But really, those your routing decisions and the order that you pick up items, that's gonna be. I think that would determine 90% of races. At least in my opinion. Now, that might be a little bit high. Maybe I should say about 80%, because sometimes you just out execute the other runner. So, but when you're on the same skill level, I really think that the order you pick up your items is really the most determinant factor.
I think there's always going to be a level where execution comes into play.
Yep.
You know, the obvious name to talk about here is Marco, being the number 2 seed in this tournament, who very typically has been an execution player. Marco can full clear the game in the time it takes somebody else to do 3-4 dungeons. Less so the case now, but historically that's kind of the position Marco was in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the distinct difference there, though, and the thing that Exodus and What the Hells in particular do very, very well, and there are a few other names that come to mind, but those two stand out, is balancing execution as the little things that happen every seed. Knowing your movement, your basic movement, the number of people who will spend that extra half a second on a back hawk every time just lining up a back hawk. Getting little things like, figuring out exactly what sequences to play, like your roll timing or your exact movement around things that you will do every seed. There's a reason these runners will get consistent times on Dampe races. There's a reason, I mean, we're talking about speed runners for the most part here as well, but these are things that happen every single seed. And that's, I think, a big part of their execution edge, is not knowing all the fancy tricks and being able to do them, but knowing which ones are worth going for and being able to do the basics of the game better than the majority of players.
Yeah, it's really just about reducing your margin of error when it comes to the very top tier, Like you're saying, this is all playing into a factor here. And that is Phase 3 of Ganon coming up. Let's get your GGs into chat, as Exodus is going to be moving on into Winner's Stimmings.
As we said earlier, definitely not over for Favio. Double elimination.
Might be Winner's Quarters. I might have flubbed that. I think it's Winner's Quarters, actually. Sorry. It's a GG. An official race time.gg time of 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 33 seconds. That's Exodus finishing in first place. And we do have both of our runners, in the waiting room.
Yep, they're in the waiting room, so I will pull them both in, so we can chat about the seed. GG's.
Right. Welcome.
Welcome in. Good games. Well played. Exodus and Favio joining us in here. Exodus, our winner, the number 3 seed, moving on to winner's bracket round 4, while Favio, the 51 seed, will be dropping down into loser's bracket. Gentlemen, welcome in. Good game. Well played.
Hey, GG.
I guess we'll start off with the obvious side of things, I guess. How do you both feel like the seed went? Because from our perspective, this was wild. The whole way through, it was all over the place, wildly different routes. obviously you guys don't see that. You only see your own perspective. How did you both feel this played out for you?
I thought the seed was really scary because it looked like a crazy jet, except because you had everything except the hover boots, like really easily obtainable. I felt like, or hinted. So I was kind of scared that maybe I played too safe early on, doing some things like deck retreat that he might not have done. Because if you just do your hints and do like some basic overworld areas, like you could definitely skip a lot of stuff in the seed, at least up until the hover boots. The hover boots were obviously the hardest one to find, but other than that, I felt like everything was pretty easy to find. So I was pretty scared at how jetty it seemed like.
Oh, Fabio, you just cut out. You just cut out there.
I don't know if Fabio's mic is working.
May not be working correctly, yeah. Okay, Fabio, you try to get your mic up and working. We'll continue on here with Exodus here. Right, so walk us through just... Is there anything about, you say, the first 30 minutes of this race, besides all those items that really stood out to you in this run today?
No.
So that this was like you started off with minuet, you go into cat. I mean, pretty straightforward to you, or was there anything that really stood out? I would say in between. Ooh, so you get those early bomb chews, and then you go maybe up to the point about Dodongo's cavern. Was there anything that really stuck out to you there, or is it just like gathering all your items up?
No, I was just doing like basic browning, like not really anything special until it was really nice that I got the bomb bag in Bronze City. Actually, that probably didn't matter that much because I was about to get the bomb bag in Deku anyways, but it felt good at the time because all I had was I guess I had a bunch of chews because I got a 20 pack and a 10 pack, but still it was really nice to get the bomb bag, so I knew I would run out. But yeah, I felt like the route was pretty straightforward for me up until pretty much I had to try to find hover boots.
Yeah, I don't... honestly speaking, I'm not sure we saw a single point of convergence outside of Favio heading into... No. I think Favio heading into Forest Temple as you were heading out of it. Like, that was about the only time when you guys were, like, in the same location at the same time. It was pretty interesting race to watch there. Favio, can you speak for us, please? We got mic issues.
No?
Ah, we can
No?
hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Okay.
Good game, Favio.
Yeah, GG. Did I ask where the covers are? I feel like I'm not gonna like the answer.
Was deeper into fire.
Ah.
So this was
Ah.
I wanted to ask for both of you, I guess. So you both had that graveyard path of Olvadia, and that had a ton of stuff. There was so much there. And then you kept following it and got a wallet in Shadow. What's your consideration at that point? How much are you still paying attention to that hint? How much are you is it the first thing you're looking at, or is it kind of in the back of your mind? Is it completely ignored?
Yeah, that's the only thing I was thinking about for like the time I was doing my 4 progression dungeons in a row, because all I knew was hover boots at that point, and I knew that hint was either pointing to a wallet or a tunic or the hover boots. So yeah, when I found that wallet, that made me think, okay, it's pretty likely it's for the wallet because there's all of Shadow Temple and all of Ganon's Castle. Like, it's fairly likely that the other wallet and the Goron Tunic are just in one of those 2 locations. And so I I knew it could definitely be all dungeons. I was gonna go for Jamu right after Fire, but I just felt like Fire was my densest play because all I had was like some orphaned overworld checks and then Fire Temple and Jabu, so I just decided to do Fire because it was a pretty good chance that that path was just for the wallet. Because like half the checks that I had remaining were locked by that Dins pretty much. It was all of Ganon's and all of Shadow, so it was pretty likely it was just for wallets.
Yeah, I didn't think about the wallet, honestly. Did you do big pose? I was worried about that.
No, I didn't do big pose.
Okay.
We definitely talked about it on the commentary at one point as an idea of, okay, if it's just Kokiri Sword for all dungeons, that's why it's part of Orvagia, then do you ever take that push towards doing big pose out of logic just in case?
Yeah, I thought about that. I might have done that before going Child to do Job.
Bobby, was that play on your mind then? You asked about it.
I was going for HD for like archery, honestly.
Yeah, we were thinking, oh gosh, as when we found that wallet, we're like, oh no, could it possibly be all dungeons for horseback archery? That we were kind of thinking the same thing as you, Favio. And then shortly thereafter, Exodus pushed deeper into Fire, and found the hovers and locked it all into place for us.
Yeah. He wasn't nice. I didn't play well. I'm just kind of emotional right now. I wish I was in a better mood.
I
totally understand, yeah.
Yeah. I guess very important to say, it is of course not over at all. Winners round 3, so down into losers 4, and a little bit of a waiting time on your next match there. Gotta wait for Rockchalk and Morsoleon, and then the winner of that plays Tanjo, and then the winner of that will go against you, Favio. Is there one of those 3, I guess, that you would like to see, like to avoid in particular?
I mean, all 3 are gonna be very tough. Like from last year, I faced Rockchalk, and he beat me, so I don't know, maybe we will meet again. I don't know.
Ooh, a revenge angle!
But for the rest, no, I haven't. But any of those is gonna be very hard.
Yeah, Morsoleon picking off J-Bone and Tanjo, we all know that they're quite the runner, you know, beating the 4 seed, eliminating Alsuna in the lower bracket there. And of course, Rockchalk being a very strong runner for many years. Lots of tough options. We wish you nothing but the best, Favio, into the losers bracket.
And then Exodus on your end, you've got the winner of Seisei and Sora. Any thoughts on either of those? Any particular run back you want or revenge angle on that end?
No, they're both good, so it'll be hard either way.
I think the last question I have, Yoshi and I were talking about it a little bit as we were finishing up the seed. You guys have a bit of a wait now, probably. How do you guys choose to keep sharp in between tourney races?
I just do practice races, and that's pretty much it. I do some sims as well.
Seeds and sims.
Yep.
Yeah, from my side, it was kind of hard to do a race this week. I had a lot of work to do, and I'm gonna be soon doing our vegan vacation, so I'll probably be gonna grind a lot. I don't know. Okay.
Well, that's definitely a good positive attitude to come out of this. I know you're saying you're emotional. The season tournament is rough indeed. This has been very challenging for everyone. I know there were a couple of previous matches mentioned that have been quite interesting outcomes. So definitely do your sims, do some practice. You're gonna have a bunch of time. I think there are 2 more races, Favio, before you can play again. But take a breather, refresh your mind, and we definitely hope to see you come back out of losers brackets. And who knows, maybe you could play again, like you were saying. And Exo, good luck on whoever you're playing as well, and Say or Sora. Definitely a lot of matches coming up. But to wrap up, speaking of matches, as we are approaching the weekend, it is going to be a lot of Season 6 matches. There are a bunch tomorrow. Some have a French restream. Some will be on ZSR, so take a look at the bracket or in the OoTR Discord for where they will be. There are also will be an RSL match now that they are in the quarterfinals. There's one tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern on ZSR, so right back here. Quarterfinal match, Timmy and Pyra. But yeah, whole day of Rando, if Rando is your thing. So I will give plugs, which I think started a couple of things. So first off, please give a follow to our 2 amazing runners, Exo and Favio. Great job, guys. This was a logic seed. This was definitely something. To our amazing commentators, Hag and Yoshi, thank you very much for your explanation of these path hints. Without you guys, I don't know if I would have understood that a wallet was apparently path. Today I learned. So thank you guys. And our 2 trackers, Carlina and Star, for keeping us up to date with all of the items that we got in the first 10 minutes, because there were actually a lot of them. But yeah, any final thoughts from you guys before we end for the night?
Yeah, this is a short one. I'm gonna be short. Well, besides the GDXs, in my next round.
GG.
Yeah, the season was very rough to me, so kind of hard to have like the game set, but I'm working on it. So I hope I can practice a little bit more the next week, and that's pretty much. Thank you for the restream.
Alright, awesome. We wish you the best in your practice, Favio. I guess... Oh, sorry, Yoshi, were you gonna say something? I saw it light up.
No, that's okay.
Alright, cool. So with that, we will send a raid to a fellow friend that is doing crowd control Zooter. Hopefully something chill for the rest of the night after this intense rando match. But we hope to see you again back on ZSR tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Bye!